Kids, good evening. Today we're going to talk about the Fiscal Cliff. I'm going to make this as easy as possible. This is Fiscal Cliff for Dummies. For those of you that are not understanding all this racket on the news and stuff about the Fiscal Cliff, I'm going to try to explain it to you in the simplest terms possible because actually it's really not all that complicated. Okay, so here's the deal. Back in the day, when George Bush was in office, he had some temporary tax cuts because he didn't have enough political capital to get them through permanently. They made some temporary tax cuts, and they were quite severe, and they were all across the board for everyone, and in many different types of tax brackets, etc., etc. And then he had a second round of temporary tax cuts, but he did not have enough political capital to get it through Congress without making it only temporary and not permanent. Now, when George Bush got out of office 8 years later, Barack Obama took over, who was a Democrat. And the Democrats had swept into power quite substantially in the 2 years prior to George Bush leaving and in the year that Barack Obama took over. But yet, because of illnesses and other things, they did not have the technical supermajority they needed for absolutely everything. Plus, Democrats tend to be a very big tent, and there are a lot of very conservative Democrats. So there's only so much they could do. In 2010, the Republicans got a boost because they stalled on everything possible during Obama's first 2 years in office. And lied and did all these things. You know, Obama's a Muslim, Obama's trying to turn a socialist, Obama this, Obama that, which was all not true. Obama's trying to take away our guns, etc. All of it not true. They got a big majority sweep into the House of Representatives. They did not obtain the Senate, and they still, of course, did not have the White House. But they felt this new mojo, and they got this primarily from the Tea Party, which is very extreme. Now, when trying to legislate, even the most basic legislation came to a grinding halt because Americans voted for basically gridlock, and that's exactly what we've gotten since that time. Absolute, utter, complete gridlock. So even the most basic budget things come down to the last wire. Or they just do continuing resolutions and use last year's budgets, etc. Because nothing new can get done. Because between the Senate blocking everything and the House blocking everything, nothing ever seems to get done anymore. Our Congress has absolutely become perfectly useless. And all they do is sit and blame each other. And most of the time, if you sit and do the research, one side or the other, and it's normally the Democrats are the ones that are usually willing, because it's a bigger tent, to negotiate, and Republicans have become very intransigent and very extreme, and their extreme right wing is what is leading them right now, and they do not negotiate at all for anything. And look up the history. They don't do it. They have not for a while now. So here we set up this dynamic for 2010 with Republicans now feeling their mojo. So they decided to go into these budget negotiations because of the Fiscal Cliff. And that becomes a disaster because they decide to take us to the Fiscal Cliff. And for the first time in history, our credit rating got downgraded thanks to the Republican Tea Party because they did not want to sign on to an extension of our debt ceiling. Now, in this process, they went through this super committee, which they set up themselves. Congress set up a super committee between the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats. They had their best negotiators and their most extreme negotiators, and they had two moderates on each one that were very good at working the levers. And they came up with something called Simpson-Bowles. And Simpson-Bowles was quite extreme. And it was so extreme that the Republicans ended up having to walk away from their extreme positions. And they came up with this piece of legislation that's based loosely on Simpson-Bowles, which basically is what we call now the fiscal cliff. And the fiscal cliff happens on the last day of the year, of this year, 2012. At midnight on January 1st, all the Bush tax cuts are gone forever. Everybody's tax rates gets raised. The extra extensions on unemployment go away, so people are going to be thrown off unemployment benefits for that extra time that was added during the crisis, for example, even though unemployment's quite still high. So everybody's tax rates from the lowest to the highest are going to go up. Also, there's a special tax deduction on payroll taxes, which is what most Americans pay, because most Americans don't pay income taxes because we no longer make enough because we've turned ourselves into a third world country. So those payroll tax breaks that we used to get so that we could try to make a living or eke a living out of our Walmart part-time wages is now going up too. So you're going to take home a lot less. All the tax rates are going to go right back up. In addition to that, there's going to be some draconian cuts to a lot of programs that a lot of people need, and things that some people would say that need draconian cuts and some say no. For example, the Defense Department's going to get a huge wallop of the cut immediately on January 1st. Immediately. No questions asked, no problem. They're going to start cutting and slashing spending on everything, and they're going to raise taxes on absolutely everyone in the nation, and that's the fiscal cliff. Now, it's like, you can look at it like the Thelma and Louise thing, which is what they've been trying to sell it as, and it works really well that way for scaring people because we all know fear motivates. But actually, it's more like falling off a curb and then rolling down a hill. And the more these things start to bite and the more these cuts start to take place, and it's kind of a staggered thing, soon it's going to put us into a Greek-like depression because it's going to become very austere. And as we've noticed in Europe, in Portugal and Greece and Spain, these austerity programs that Germany threw on these other countries and insisted that they took have not worked at all. They've actually blown up in their faces. So people have been facing 25-30% unemployment, suicides have gone through the roof, bankruptcies have gone through the roof. It's been an absolute abject disaster. And essentially, this law that our Congress passed, both Republicans and Democrats passed, which was the "it's so bad we have to do something before it happens" bill, is actually going to happen because the Republicans have no leadership. They've gotten themselves into a position through the last 8 election cycles where they've come so far to the extreme, and the extreme has taken so hard control that they have no way of bargaining anymore. This isn't Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill anymore. This is not rational people having a rational discussion from a slightly different point of view. This is, I'm not listening to you at all, versus what can we do to try to make this better. That's exactly what this is. Now, if nothing happens at all, like I said, day one, everyone's taxes goes right through the roof. Now, America just had an election, and President Obama ran on a program which has already passed the Senate this summer, which only needs to pass through the House. And the House has enough votes to pass it. It has enough votes to pass it because all the Democrats will vote for it, and there is enough Republicans that are moderate enough still that have not left that will vote for it, and it will pass. But it will not be a majority Republican passed vote, which will make Speaker Boehner look like an ass. So he does not want to look like an ass because he wants to be Speaker again. But he doesn't get to be Speaker again until after January 3rd when they have a vote. So he still has to seem like or look like he's in control. Sadly, last week what happened was he went for his own Plan B option, which would have never passed the Senate. And it would never have been signed by President Obama, but it was his own, quote, Republican version. And sadly, he couldn't even get that passed. So he had to pull it off the table himself. It was just like the minority leader in the Senate the week before putting forward a bill and then yanking it back and himself, and because he realized he was going to lose his own vote, and he thought he was going to challenge the Democrats and realized he was going to lose on his own vote. So the Republican leadership, both in the Senate and the House, are absolutely useless at this point. All they do is know how to say no to everything. Now, if you listen to a lot of Republican pundits or people on the Republican side that are pro-Republican, they are now all coming to the conclusion that Republicans have lost their way. They only know how to say no. They're not for anything. They're just against everything. And they're against even their own ideas at some point in this juncture. So it's like trying to negotiate, the Democrats are like trying to negotiate with themselves. Meanwhile, the citizenry said, well, we just voted for a president that said he wanted to do this and we agreed with him. So we went ahead and voted for him. We also voted for a majority of Democrats in the Senate. And by the way, even though all these districts and all these different states had been gerrymandered by Republicans over the last few years, we voted for more Democrats than we voted for Republicans in the House, even though they still control the House, which shows how much Republicans have lacked leadership and are completely out of touch with the mainstream of America. Now, as soon as your paycheck shrinks in January, and as soon as your taxes go up in January, and as soon as the depression starts again in January, you can look to your Republican leadership and ask them, really? How is this working out for us? Because frankly, it's not going to work for anyone. And they knew that when they signed this bill. So this is Congress setting up, believe it or not, as stupid as this sounds, Congress set up their own disaster plan to make an artificial disaster happen in the event that they cannot work together. And instead of working together, they're going to allow an artificial disaster. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. That's how easy this fiscal cliff thing is. And it'll get worse, and it'll get worse, and it'll get worse, and it'll get worse. And trust me, absolutely no one's going to be happy. No one will be happy. Now, what's on the table originally is we will keep the Bush tax cuts for everybody making $250,000 or less, and everybody making $250,000 or more per year, the Bush tax cuts will retire. There's even been some negotiation that they won't go quite as high as they did in the Clinton era. Obama said he'll negotiate the top rate by a point or two, which is reasonable. That's negotiation. That's giving and taking. Republicans want nothing to do with that. He's also said, well, what if we make it $400,000 instead of $250,000? And that wasn't acceptable. Now, Boehner tried to make it $1 million, and he couldn't pass it through his own House of Representatives. So there's no light. There's no negotiation at all. And Obama's already given $1.6 trillion in cuts, more than in negotiations in the past few years than he intended to. So as far as spending cuts, there's already been a lot more than was intended, ever. Which makes some Democrats pretty unhappy. But Republicans want more cuts, which is more austerity. And austerity, as we've seen globally, does not work. So here we face the fiscal cliff, which is basically self-inflicted, ridiculous austerity for no reason, which we know does not work. We've seen it not work with ourselves, and we've seen it not work with every other nation that's tried it. Austerity does not work. We are just decided to become les miserables ourselves. We might as well start pulling each other's teeth out and selling them to each other. Seriously. It's ridiculous. It's preposterous, and you should be on the phone with your representatives and senators, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, saying, knock it off. get to work. And I particularly would say put the wheel on your House of Representatives, because they are the ones blocking this, and particularly your Republican House of Representatives folks, because they're the ones stalling this whole process. These negotiations have been happening for 2 years. We know what's going to happen. And what America voted for in spades was what Obama was running on, not what Boehner wants, or not what the Tea Party wants. The Tea Party lost badly in the last election. They lost horribly. So the fact that we're even listening or being held hostage by them, the last time we were held hostage by them, they were the first time in our American history that our credit was ever downgraded. The Tea Party is toxic. It's toxic for America. It's toxic for our politics. And it's toxic for you and me because it's costing us our life, our way of living. It doesn't work. It sounds good, and they make it sound a lot of like bravado and machismo and stuff, but truly, it doesn't work. It's a bunch of crap. So there you go, the Fiscal Cliff for Dummies. Get your Republicans to vote for what America voted for, not for what they believe in their heart is the right thing, because truly, it's been proven not to. Have a nice evening.